versus Black-owned restaurants. We're talking about Black people. Welcome back. That was quick.
That was quick. I got kicked out and then welcome back. So, hey.
Absolutely. Look, in the pandemic, when you live, you live. You really know if you live when this happens. Now, if it's pre-recorded and it looks all sexy, you know somebody really shot it, they edited it, but not here. This is where we get to speak our truth. We get to dispel myths in the Black community, and we get to bring some light to different situations. The Afro has been in business for over 128 years, informing, educating, and inspiring. And before I go further, I'm going to just take a breath and say, Dr. Draper, good afternoon. How are you?
Afternoon, Impeccable. I am well. Missed being here last week. I think all of us were traveling last week, so great to be back in the box.
Absolutely. You just stopped right there. Great to be back on the box. I ain't never heard a preacher stop that short ever.
Drop the mic. That's it.
Look, Black-owned businesses, Black-owned restaurants. Guys, do you know the ones in your area? Are you eating there? Are you supporting them? And what is your experience? We're going to talk about it. We have some guests. I'm going to bring my first guest. We're not going to belabor the point. I don't even know who's tuning in. Put in the chat where you're tuning in from as we build the audience. And share. Hit the share button, y'all. When we share information, we're stronger. We're going to find out something that we didn't know that's going to help us move forward in our community. Our first guest, Mr. Akil Stinson. How are you this morning? Afternoon, I'm sorry. I always wanted to be morning. I must be in a West Coast state of mind, I think.
Good afternoon, Mr. Impeccable and Dr. Draper. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Akil is our expert. I asked him, did he have any money, under his table? He said he was home, but he works for Chase, and he is a business development manager out of the Washington, D.C. area. So we're glad to have him to the conversation because a lot of guys, a lot of people out there are looking to start their own business and to gain the capital they need to really push forward with their dream of getting out the kitchen. So we want to welcome you to the conversation. And we have another guest, Mrs. A. Couture. How are you? Miss, I'm sorry. I don't want to marry you unless you're already married.
Divorced, so it's all one and the same.
Welcome to the Chicken Box. And I can say good morning to you, I think.
Yes, you can.
Because you are on the left coast.
Yes.
Are you originally from there?
Yes, I am from Los Angeles. I'm a true Cali girl.
True Cali girl. Ms. Couture is the president and the CEO of the International Black Restaurant and Hospitality Association, the official destination and marketing trade organization for Black business owners in the hospitality, travel, and tourism. I was writing your title and on the flyer. I was like, man, I'm gonna run out of characters. But I'll start with you, even though Akil, I'm just going to be gracious to the ladies and just give our viewers just a quick touch on what you represent besides what I just read.
Good afternoon to everyone out east, and good morning to everyone out west, as well to Dr. Draper and Mr. Impeccable. I'm A. Couture. I'm the president and CEO of the International Black Restaurant and Hospitality Association. We are a destination marketing organization as well as trade association for Black business owners in the hospitality, travel, and tourism space. The purpose of our organization is to ensure that when travelers and tourists, particularly international tourists, come to the United States and spend billions of dollars in travel, tourism, accommodations, and special events, that they make sure that they come through the Black community, put those dollars into the Black community, as well as explore the rich culture and history that the Black community has to offer.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Make sure. Do y'all have a special map that just shows them how to get through?
Absolutely. We feature the top 21 cities here in the United States, as well as we have a footprint globally also, but particularly here in the United States, everywhere from Los Angeles to New Orleans to Miami to Baltimore to DC to New York. And we take them and give them highlighted tours of restaurants that's been around for quite some time, or new favorites that have recently launched, as well as hotels, cultural institutions, churches, art exhibits, pop-up events, you name it. We just make sure that not only are minority dollars recycled back into the community, but even in 2020 and 2019, leading up to the Great Plague, that $200 billion that is circulated through travel and tourism is really put back into the community or given to the community as well.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here with us this morning on the Chicken BOXX Show. It's Black people versus Black-owned restaurants or Black-owned business. Are we supporting them? Are we eating there? And what is our experiences? We have Akil from Chase. I hear a little ruffling. I think it may be your hair, Ms. Couture. You have a wire on your mic?
Yes.
Okay. Look, we're doing it real time. We are glad to have you. Either that or maybe it's not you. But Akil, welcome. Why don't you let everybody know how you plan to just stake in DC and what you're doing for Black businesses in DC? Do you cover just DC or is it all over?
I cover DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And Mr. Impeccable, thank you for the introduction. I've been at JP Morgan Chase for 12 years. I transitioned to Washington, DC in 2018 as we began to build our presence here in Washington, DC. We hadn't had a retail presence in Washington, DC ever. And I was one of the people fortunate enough to get chosen to come to DC and lead the effort. As a relationship manager here in Chase Business Banking, my goal is to work with companies from startup and help them grow. Primarily, I am a partner to their business and also an advisor. I use our online tools and our product specialists to help businesses, whether it's streamline their cash flow, improve their cash management, become more efficient with their receivables and payables. And then the other thing I'm sure we'll touch on today is in addition to my role here at Chase Business Banking, I am on the board of the Washington Area Community Investment Fund. And the Washington Area Community Investment Fund is a CDFI that works to expand inclusive entrepreneurship in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area, and also to improve business outcomes equitably.
Absolutely. I think you got some fans out there, Mr. Akil. They said you're the conductor of the Washington Chorus. Was that you?
The who?
Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I'm going to get my glasses. I'm sorry. Somebody else help me.
Oh, no, that's not me.
Oh, no, that's not you. I was like, wait a minute. You hold me back? We might need a song before.
No, I don't sing. Not today. Not ever.
If you just tuned in, this is the Chicken BOXX. This is Black people versus Black-owned restaurants. We're talking about food all month at the Afro-American newspaper, who coincidentally has been here 128 years and just supporting Black business, telling the Black story. When they wouldn't say anything good about us, which I don't think they still are, we are going to continue to say it. Don't laugh, Patrick. I'm sorry. Jewel, thanks for tuning in. Adrian, boy, I'm telling you, when you get a certain age, you're going to get some reading glasses and you're going to fight them. You're going to just fight these little fonts. See who else is Adriano, Shaney, and Jewel, and Patrick, and Byron. Thank you for hanging out and to this conversation. I want to say it's Black Restaurant Month, y'all. I'm just making this up as we go along. But listen, it's time to find the ones in your area and try them, rotate them. You know what I mean? And see if they have Uber Eats if you haven't felt comfortable in your area about going out yet. But we want to get into the conversation. Dr. Draper, do you have a question burning that we can kick the conversation off with?
Yeah, I'm really curious because we are, we believe, coming out of COVID, and I'm with and Akil. I'm really curious about the impact that COVID has had on our restaurant businesses. Akil, I'm glad to hear that you have such a heart and a passion for entrepreneurs. And so it's not just a restaurant business. I heard Ms. Couture say she's travel and tourism. So I don't know what the universe looks like for African-American owned businesses or how we're faring. I mean, what's really going on now in 2021? And then maybe, Mr. Simpson, you can weigh in on Chase's role, because I know that here in Maryland, I think, there's been some funding that's been released to try to help businesses. and there were millions of restaurants that are trying to access a few dollars. And so can either of you speak to the economy of the Black hospitality industry now in the middle of COVID, what you see? I know there's a lot of questions at once, what the outlook is and where's the relief? How do people get some help during this time?
Ms. Couture, do you want to start, and I'll go after you?
Okay, I think you will. All right, sorry.
No problem. That's fine. Yes, the African American industry, as it relates to hospitality as a whole, was really hard hit. And when we say the hospitality community, we think of restaurants first, but we forget about those comedy clubs. We forget about those lounges. We forget about those little music blues halls and music lounges, and even those little catering halls and things. All of those industry sectors are included in hospitality. And when the industry took the hit in 2020, and even now where things have been slow to reopen on the tier structure, of course, the African American community was at the bottom. We have been first to close, and we've been the slowest to reopen. A lot of the reasons can range from a lot of things. You know, people have trouble staffing. People were hit hard as families. You know, they had family-run businesses. You know, 74% of African American hospitality businesses are family-ran with 5 or fewer employees. So if mom got COVID, if uncle got COVID, if anyone in the family was related, they did not have systems in places and things prepared to be able to move it over to a different person that could help keep the company afloat or hire an additional workforce. So that, you know, as a whole, the industry really has taken a hit. And they're slowly finding creative ways to come back. We've seen a rise in street vending, particularly here on the West Coast, as we have, you know, weather like Florida that's impeccable. And so we've had a rise in al fresco dining. But in areas like New York and Chicago that had terrible weather, even down in Texas that had terrible weather, we have seen a slow pickup, I guess if I could use that word, with people coming back. So we're trying to come up with creative promotional ways to get people to participate in things that are going on. You know, there's been Zoom events, Zoom concerts, Zoom comedy shows. There's been pre-taping, recordings, YouTube and StreamYard and all of these new softwares has opened up a new world. And so we're working with these business owners to try to embrace technology and social media as new tools to remain relevant and competitive, you know, as we slowly come out of this.
Thank you, Ms. Couture. This is the Chicken Box, y'all, where we speak our truth, and we're speaking the truth about Black people versus Black-owned restaurants. We're talking about our plight, our situation, and our support. Where are we in our own community with our dollars? Mr. Akil from Chase, would you like to jump in and weigh in on Dr. Draper's question?
Sure. So I'll just echo a lot of things Ms. Couture shared in regards to how the hospitality industry, or particularly if you think of all the different retail storefronts and restaurants that suffered mightily during the pandemic. You think about, you know, at a certain point early on in the pandemic, we didn't know if we could be near each other. And so how could you have a hospitality business where you are serving people and serve food and touch? It just was a really bad recipe. And so, you know, it seems like we're getting close to coming out of it and businesses are rebounding. One of the things that Chase was was a part of was the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program. Proud to say that Chase was the largest lender in that program as far as dollars lent of forgivable loans to businesses. As a part of that, we over 75%, I think is the number, don't quote me, was given to businesses with less than 10 employees. So while Chase is a very big organization and we deal with the largest companies, and also, but we did a fair amount with the family-owned businesses, entrepreneurs of color, Black entrepreneurs, Latinx entrepreneurs. It was basically our focus for the entire 2020. They took us offline for a number of months just to focus on getting funding to business owners that needed it mightily to get them through this very tough period. So that was the first part that Chase was involved in, and I was very involved in. The other thing I wanted to mention, and speaks directly to Dr. Draper's question, is as of tomorrow, we will be announcing the Southern Opportunity and Resilience Fund. And and Chase is one of the funders for this fund that will be providing capital to small businesses in the South that can help them to recover from, all of the impact of the pandemic. I can list all the different states. There's 15 total states, and they are focused on the South. We are even including Maryland and the District of Columbia, Tennessee, Florida, etc., Virginia. But these loans will be offered through the CDFIs. And the CDFIs in your community will have access to these loans. And that's one of the ways, in addition to the PPP, the SOAR fund is another way we're helping businesses get through the pandemic and be able to rise and come back.
Boom. Listen, he said a lot of letters, but I heard money every time he said those letters. So what you're going to have to do, if you hear live, wait till we go off because it'll be recorded. You can rewind it and you can pause and you can get that information, because a lot of times you don't know about what you don't know. So when somebody puts it out there for a source or a funding source, you wouldn't even know that Chase spent the most in businesses with 10 or less people until we met Akil, right? We don't know. Is there a second round, Akil, of PPP money?
So there were, I feel like there was 3 or 4 rounds, but there were officially only 2 rounds. And as of this week, the money has been extinguished, been lent out. So the program, however, I don't think that's the end of the program, but as of right now, if your application has not already been submitted, PPP right now is on pause just because there's no more capital available through the government. Jump in
while we right here. Somebody
I need to just throw this in since we're talking about money. However, President Biden has issued, which started April the 30th, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And in that fund, maybe you were going to go into that. So I'm sorry if I stepped over you, but
you preempted me.
Oh, yes. Well, then you go right ahead.
No, so the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is run slightly differently than the PPP fund that Chase was the largest lender of. So you went to your bank, or you established a bank relationship and or fintech relationship, financial technology company relationship, and they help facilitate the PPP loan. So you would call your bank, they would help you get it. They usually use digital resources. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund is run directly through the SBA. So you will not have to go through your bank to facilitate it. It will go directly through the SBA. And this is also to help restaurants come out of the pandemic. And it's an additional support. We spoke about the Paycheck Protection Program, the SOAR fund that's being announced tomorrow, and then the Restaurant Revitalization Fund through the SBA.
That's a lot of information, y'all, but it's good information. I'm glad you tuned into the Chicken Box today. It's Black people versus Black-owned restaurants, but when you're a restaurant, you're a business. But we also have thrown in there that we're under the umbrella of hospitality and of service, and how we've been affected through this time. And we know all businesses didn't go out of business during the pandemic. Some picked up and some became so profitable that they still had lines, whether they were able to pivot to delivery and carry out or whatever change they made. What do you find, Ms. Couture, in your walk was the effect of the pandemic? Do you think that more people were able to pivot and push through, or more people had to shut their door?
Well, this is something that I'm really passionate about talking about, and I'm so glad to participate in this on today. This has been the survival of the fittest. And when I tell you, if you didn't have your stuff together, this showed if you should have shut down long before the pandemic, and the pandemic was just something to help push along what was already there, or else if the pandemic was really to show you that your idea, your concept, your vision was stronger than ever, and it really pushed you and gave you the momentum or the air behind you to go to the next level. There are a lot of businesses that are suffering, that have suffered, and as a result, they had to close down. But if those businesses are honest, there was a lot of reasons for that long before the pandemic came. Their books were not together. Their staffing was not together. The quality of service was not there. The inconsistencies were the foundation that all the pandemic did was close the coffin. On the other side, you have those businesses who, were waiting for an opportunity to receive some additional funding with the barriers being lowered, for the door being open or for the ceiling being shattered. And the pandemic allowed them the room, if they had a plan, if they had a vision, if they had a team, if they had prepared themselves, they have really gone to the next level. So I think who you see out there thriving, and there's quite a few names that are becoming very popular now. There's quite a few apps, a lot of things that have really gone to the next level, really showed those who did their due diligence when the opportunity wasn't there, and they came prepared and ready, and they're getting ready to win in this new normal.
The new normal. Dr. Draper, Black people versus the Black-owned restaurants.
I was going to say to Ms. Couture, that's great news, because you're right. Some people were on the edge already, and Chase couldn't probably help before and can't help now, and some were just needed that extra push. Needed that extra capital. So the access to capital, Mrs. Stinson, would you say that it's a little not easier, but it's flowing a little better? Because that's one of the things when you talk to Black businesses in general, if you ask them what they need, they say access to capital.
So a couple of things I want to touch on, and piggybacking on what Ms. Couture said, in regards to the businesses that were not able to last through the pandemic. And my work here, working with business owners and founders of business, I've always found the most successful entrepreneurs have been able to pivot, and whatever that is required for their business, they're able to pivot. And so I've seen businesses go from exclusively sit down to exclusively delivery. And if they have the quality, it lasts. It's not necessarily the same kind of, well, actually, in some cases, it was more lucrative for the business. But, entrepreneurs always need to be able to pivot. And, successful entrepreneurs always are able to pivot. The other thing I wanted to touch on is it was heartbreaking in working with some businesses who applied for PPP that did not have their financial and or accounting house in order. And, I think they had the opportunity now to reflect on, what, if this happens again, I'm going to make sure everything is in order. So one of the things we do really well here at Chase is we partner with community. We have what we call them our community partners, or CDFIs. And I want to make sure I emphasize this point to everyone who's listening. The CDFIs are in your community. They are here to help you. In addition to access to capital, which is what Dr. Draper requested I speak about, they offer technical assistance and workshops. So for example, if you've never prepared a balance sheet, a CDFI can help you prepare a balance sheet. A CDFI has developed networks that can introduce you to accountants, so those accountants can get your books in order. They can help you with your marketing, your social media, and if you have a business like Mr. Impeccable here that has lasted through generations, it can also help you with succession planning, because those are all the workshops that are presented at the CDFIs. The CDFI I'm a part of I'm on the board of is Washington Area Community Investment Fund. All those different technical aspects of support for businesses we provide and welcome you with open arms. I have not seen us reach capacity where we have been unable to help entrepreneurs. So access to capital, additionally, with our community partners, they have a different, underwriting standards versus Chase. And we support them by writing checks to say, hey, we know the business you're doing. You're in the community. We believe you should meet people where they are. And here goes a check for you to be able to expand what you're doing and provide more access to capital. And the CDFIs have different loan processes and different standards. In the ideal situation, excuse me, you start, you get the technical support from a CDFI. You get a loan from a CDFI. You grow your business. You continue to grow and grow. You bank with Chase. And then after you pay back your loan from the CDFI, you come to Chase and say, hey, my business has grown from X to triple X, and we've worked really well with the CDFI. Now it's time to work with Chase. And so then we talk about access to capital and how we support your business growth. So access to capital, that's the process. And I really want to emphasize to the business owners and people who know business owners on this call to please embrace your local CDFIs for technical support and access to capital.
You said access to capital.
Let me say,
I heard access to information, and information can bring you capital when you have the right information. Ms. Couture, jump in.
Yes, I was going to add to that too. We did a survey of 500 business owners during the pandemic, and one of the biggest issues that our organization, being a marketing organization first, we had to confront the issue of customer service. That was something that was plaguing our business owners, as well as those who serve them. We did a 500-person interview of the business owners. We did a 500-person interview of customers. The playing field was leveled. Now every business was closed. We couldn't say that it was a Black issue or a Latinx issue or a white issue. Every business now had been leveled to the same. So the question had to be, if I was waiting 30 minutes for my order, before the pandemic happened, then now during the pandemic, am I going to pick up Uber Eats and text them first? Now that I have to deal with delivery and all those other things, if the customer service was, excuse my French, piss poor, as far as, my order being correct, my order being fresh, my order being timely, all of those issues, a lot of the customers that we interviewed said was a part of their decision-making process during the pandemic. And so as a result, even though there was those businesses that had a lack of access to information, including capital in that, a lot of business shut down because within the community, a lot of people now said, I had options. I'm from home. I can try a restaurant, on the other side of town, or I can try someone else, that I wouldn't typically, go to in my route home. And so I think it really was a wake-up call to Black business owners that people were making decisions, particularly after the George Floyd massacre, God bless the dead. You had an influx of white guilt, for lack of a better term, that flooded huge sums of dollars into the community. And I sat in on a call with UCLA's Economic and Public Policy cohort program, and we discussed that when surveying people, particularly Caucasian people, they said that they picked restaurants where they saw reviews because they were not a part of the Black community. They didn't know. And so they just went on what people were saying on social media. What were people saying on Yelp and Google? And so if you, again, didn't have your business, your house in order in multiple areas before the pandemic, a lot of businesses have and are still taking hits. And there's those who say, look, I'm willing to wait all the way around the corner in the rain at a food truck. There's those who are willing to pay, $40, $50 to have something delivered to their home after the delivery fee, but they're willing to do.
You went on mute, I think. Wait a minute. Stand by. She's giving out too much good information. The internet don't like it. They like, hold on. Black people learning some information. If you just tuned in, mic check, Miss Couture, real quick. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Man, they be trying to freeze the internet. They can't stop the Black information, y'all. They should have never let the internet get loose because we got you now. We can catch you on camera. we can get this information to each other fast. We can, you know, thank you for being on here. If you just tune in, it's Black people versus Black-owned restaurants, but it's so much that is involved. It's not just that one little lens, but we're going to touch on that lens. And you said a big thing about customer service. So while we're out there, if you guys are still tuned in and your chat buttons still work, how many have had great experiences service-wise at Black-owned restaurants? Put a one in the chat if you've had a great experience at a Black-owned restaurant. So let's talk about it, Dr. Draper.
Yeah, I've had some good experiences at Black-owned restaurants, and I've had some not as good experiences, but not just at Black-owned restaurants.
Right,
you know?
Absolutely.
So I don't want to just put that out on our restaurants. But one of the stereotypes is, I think, and I think Ms. Couture brought it up, around service, you know, wait times and service. And a lot of times our businesses are a little smaller. Our food is a little better, right? Or the reputation is such that people line up for that. And so when we say get it together, sometimes it's capacity, but sometimes it's knowing. And that's why I like what Mr. Simpson said about the CDFIs. It's knowing how to scale that business, because we're used to doing that small operation in 500 square feet, where the person that's serving you is the person that's cooking, is the person that's seating you and doing all of those different jobs, and it backs service up. And so service can be an issue in any business, but I think the small businesses sometimes have a lot of pressure in that area, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think Tony, thanks for tuning in.
And we hold our businesses, I think.
No, I was just acknowledging Tony Brown, who said service is the key to any business out there. And I think once we find out and really realize that a business is Black-owned, and we begin to spread the word, if in fact you have a pleasant service experience, you might not even mind waiting a little longer if the experience is pleasant. Because I always say, when I go into any establishment, out of all the thousands of restaurants in my area, I chose to take my dollar and bring it here. Now, how you think about me coming back in the future, what does it make a difference? Man, we're gonna charge you $100 for some extra ketchup. Okay, really? $100? But you know what I mean? But you understand what I'm saying. It's a small thing sometimes in the business that will lock the customer in for life. Thank you for tuning in. Ms. Couture, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I think there was a delay here on this end. No, yes, I'm still with you. Can you still hear me?
We can still hear you loud and clear. We're going to fight through the delay.
I think also, too, we have to stop holding our businesses to such a high standard. You know, we go into other businesses and other communities, and sometimes we have been treated poorly for years by other minority groups that have occupied our communities and our spaces. And we've kind of sucked it up and dealt with it. And then when it comes to, Black-owned businesses in particular by their own people, sometimes a negative word goes a lot further than a positive one. And so I think it's really important after this pandemic, as we show, pride and self-love and community, particularly after all of these civil rights issues that we've been dealing with, that we also put our businesses in that same category and give them a little bit of grace. They're up against a lot. They're dealing with a lot. And when you go in that beauty supply store, you don't go in always, not everyone consistently, making demands or spreading, the truth about how you're treated. But I've seen things from, our own people that have just ravaged our businesses as far as reviews and all these other platforms where people can, share their thoughts and opinion. And it just hasn't been kind. So I just hope that, yes, the businesses need to have areas and opportunities to grow and scale and improve. But we as a people, we have to do better championing for our community.
Absolutely. Akil, you wanna chime in there?
I just think the term Ms. Couture using as far as grace is very, very important in this time. So when you think about, you know, in my job as a relationship manager here in DC, luckily most of the people I reach out to, they want to speak to me because they know I can help their business. Sometimes people may not want to speak with me. But what I learned very early on, and I think this can apply to customer-facing businesses and retail-based businesses. You never know,
you messing with my Wi-Fi, man.
You never know what is going on at the business or with that individual for that day. You never know. And so while you're spending your dollars, you should be able to get the service you acquire and you came expecting. But I think the idea of grace, understanding that, you know, what if that person serving you, their mom just went into the hospital with COVID? How's that affecting them? And so I just think having grace in dealing with everyone and everything, particularly in a hard time right now, is just key, along with gratitude for being here, because there's been so much death, frankly, and so much sickness, are two elements that we all can just add to and bring to our interactions with people. It just would make lives easier, and people can appreciate what they have and just be mindful of what people are going through, because you never know. Literally, you never know.
I love that when you say grace. Sometimes we're hard on ourselves and we are on other ethnicities, other populations of people, and we find fault. And then we'll say something like, I don't know why there aren't more Black-owned X. Well, it's all about our support of those and having some grace. We all want, I know I want people to have some grace with me, right? But we are hard on ourselves, harder on ourselves than we'll put up with some stuff at some other establishments, but you know, their ice is not colder, right? And so I'm glad to hear you say something about grace, and Ms. Couture, I'm glad you are saying something too about that. Now, yeah, we have to get our stuff together, but sometimes we'll walk into an establishment and we'll have a stereotype ourselves about what we're going to expect instead of having some grace. So I really do appreciate both of you all lifting it up. And speaking of stereotypes, usually on this show, we lift up our co-host, our millennial co-host, Misha, who's not here today. So we ask your prayers for Misha as she's helping her mother recover from a medical emergency. But Misha did send us a list of stereotypes. I'm gonna see if I can find them real quick, Kevin, unless you have them pulled up.
I don't have them pulled up. Misha's our producer. So I'm going to say I'm winging it, y'all.
I have them, and I would be interested in finding out what our guests and our viewers think about these stereotypes. So put it in the chat. You know, we love to have you engage with us. And Jewel, good to see you. So Black-owned, here are the stereotypes that Misha sent us. The Black-owned restaurants, I'm reading what she wrote, are delicious. So, well, the food, I guess. Black-owned restaurants have good food, but there are always issues. Black-owned restaurants have issues with timeliness. Black-owned restaurants are always packed with long waits. Black-owned restaurants always are missing items. Black-owned restaurants are key to Black culture. Black-owned restaurants are important to the Black economy. Black-owned restaurants have a hard time staying open, and in order to succeed, Black-owned restaurants must appeal to more. These are stereotypes, not necessarily the viewpoints of the Afro or any of you. I'm just sharing what our co-host found out when she did a little research. As we said to her, what's happening on those digital streets, Misha? What are you hearing? And so Black-owned restaurants are now a trend because people are working to purchase within the Black community. So it's a fad, it's a trend. Or Black-owned restaurants normally, wow, listen to the stereotypes, specialize in unhealthy food. All right, Mr. Stinson, Ms. Couture, you heard any of those stereotypes at all?
I've definitely heard all of those stereotypes. I'm not sure how you want me to respond in that I've heard them. I can identify with some.
Okay.
However, you know, I feel I go into everything I do with a super positive outlook.
I love it.
And so if I'm in a restaurant and there's a long line, I feel like that's a good point, because that means the food is really good and people are waiting for this long line. So, I mean, after a certain point, it does, you know, you get frustrated, and patience is not my strongest virtue. But, you know, I go into every interaction really positively. And, you know, there is one thing you touched on that I did not love, but I guess is a stereotype, that Black restaurants don't serve healthy food. I don't know where that comes from. I embrace all the food of all the different cultures, and they all have their different caloric intake, or you want to look at kcals or macros. Like, it is what it is. It's up to you to choose what you want to eat at that time. If you want to choose the healthy option, you choose the healthy option. If you want to choose the more indulgent option, you choose that. I feel like I see that across all cultures, not just Black culture. So I wish people would just look a little bit more broadly at the food choices and make their own decisions. That one stood out to me as I think that's unfair. And I'm not a medical doctor or a nutritionist, but I know how to look at food and evaluate what's good for me at that moment. So
absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is called the Chicken Box. And some people tuning in from other parts of the country don't know, in Baltimore, a chicken box is 4 wings and fries. I'm sure you have it somewhere. Almost every Black community has some chicken wings and some fries. I don't know what y'all call it. We call it the Chicken Box, but we also called the show the Chicken Box because Akil was just on the box. He was speaking his truth about how he felt about those stereotypes. So this is a place not only for us to discuss things that people are thinking about. Yeah, we're going to say what you're thinking about, because people are thinking these things. People are commenting, like she said. People are not having grace. You know, we tear down. I'm talking about from our artists to our businesses. Online, these, I'm going to call them internet cowards, get behind this typewriter and say what they probably wouldn't say to a person's face, because they think they can say anything because they're just behind the keyboard. And what they don't realize, with no grace, is that what they're doing is exactly what all the other communities want us to do.
Did you say typewriter?
I meant to say keyboard. You know what I mean? All right, y'all. I did grow up when it was a typewriter to a word processor to a computer. You know what I mean? I saw whiteout fade away, okay? Somebody else saw whiteout fade away. Anyway, they behind that keyboard just, you know, they're just poisoning through their, I mean, and it depends on how you receive it, because, you know, you're going to find the people who write negative comments in life, they're probably pretty negative on a regular basis. So that's what stimulates them. And most people who talk about somebody really have a bunch of issues themselves and insecurities. So what they do is blurt it out on everybody else. We got to have a little grace. I like that word. You know how you say your grace before you eat, y'all. Let's have some more grace with each other in the community. And if in fact there is a correction to be made, we don't have to do it like ghetto, like and be loud. We can always say and pull the owner aside and say that this experience could have been better if in fact maybe this might happen. You know what I mean? Or it's another way to gently deal with our people, because you know their patience level is like boom, and you know it only takes a second and we are off to the races. You know what I mean? And you know, and maybe that's not the best approach to get where you need to get, even if you're not going to support them again. And y'all, we got to take our money where it's welcomed. And yeah, I'm gonna get off the box right now.
You on that box?
I am on the box. I feel away. I feel away also when I go in the restaurant and it's all, maybe I don't feel away. Maybe that's the way that they've been able to win, when it's kind of all another culture running everything, but it's really still Black owned. Okay. Because has anybody ever seen that, experienced that? Like everything else, if you didn't know that the owner was Black, you wouldn't know that you had even stepped into a Black establishment.
Yeah, I get it. But Ms. Couture, what about those stereotypes? Have you heard any of those?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to take a real radical opinion here and be kind of bold and say it's all out of self-hate. I think every single one of those, you know, has some element of haterism. I know my daughter says it's not.
Oh, I love that word, haterism.
Involved in it. I mean, you have shows dedicated on television that talk nothing about the lines being long. They say these are the hottest restaurants in New York City, the hottest restaurants in LA, because people are down the block and they pride themselves on going to Pink's or Shake Shack here in Los Angeles, or In-N-Out Burger. These Caucasian-owned establishments are eating poke, which is something that is really popular out here raw seafood bowls, and people stand for hours, and it's a part of the culture. It's a part of the tourism. But when it comes to us, it's too long. They say, well, our food is unhealthy, but then they'll go sit at an Italian restaurant, or they'll go sit at a Persian or a Greek restaurant that is very rich in flavors and calories. You know, they'll say that, you know, oh, our businesses, you know, are just a fad. They won't be a fad if you continue to support them. You know, if you continue to open up your depths. So that Slutty Vegan that's in Atlanta, that is the vegan restaurant, or the Detroit Pizza restaurant that's in Washington, D.C. Or if you come here and you have Nyasha's in Santa Monica, which specializes in soul and Asian fusion cuisine. There are other restaurants that we want to venture into, but a lot of them suffer because they don't have the community support, and our community doesn't always stereotypically have the taste palettes, they say, for those things outside of chicken and fries and mamba sauce, if you in that DC DMV area. So I think, you know, we have to look at all of the stereotypes and say, okay, well, what are they rooted in? Because like I said, our association, we had an abundance of not even just people of other races, but media outlets and everything that said, send us lists of Black restaurants. We want to put them on TV. Send us lists of places that we can patronize. We want to put it out there. And it was our community that was just championed with, oh, don't share that one because I don't like this. Don't share that one because I don't like that. And I even think, you know, my last point, we all saw that viral video that went out with the African-American owner down in Texas that had the young people that came inside of his restaurant, the young ladies that was inside of his restaurant, and decided on a Sunday brunch time it's a nightclub / restaurant, but during the day and particularly on Sundays, they spotlight that they are family style. And these young ladies who patronize frequently came into the restaurant and began twerking on the tables and on the stools while they were waiting for their food. They were asked to stop 2 times by someone who was not of their race. They declined. The DJ changed the music. They kept playing. And their excuse was, well, we had been waiting an hour and a half for our food. So while we were drinking, you know, our mimosas, we decided to start twerking. When the owner confronted them and said that he didn't want that ghetto behavior in his restaurant, particularly on Family Sunday, he got bashed for how he talked to Black women as a Black man and how he treated people with the hour-long wait. And, you know, his restaurant took a major hit, even though he continued to take the stand. So these are issues that we deal with, and we got to confront them. And we have to have real conversations about it if we're ever going to get to the level of other communities where we have viability in the retail space.
Absolutely. The funny thing about that is I know the owner who it was, and he's the only Black man, I think. Was it in Dallas? Yeah, I think it was in Dallas or
Houston.
Yeah, it was in Dallas. He's the only Black man that owns a building in downtown Dallas that I think. Now maybe it's another, and I can't be wrong, but that's what and does a lot in the community. But I think that maybe he might have had another way of handling it with a different grace. But good, bad, or ugly, they were in there turning up on family brunch twerking. I mean, nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see it even, you know what I mean? Period. But, you know, anyway, that brought back memory. You're at the Chicken Box. We wrapping up the last 10 minutes, y'all. we about to have final words. It's Black people versus Black-owned restaurant. Brian said it's a mindset shift that must occur within our own community to understand. And Brian said, let me see. Brian said he has some money. Did he say he has some money? No, he has some solutions at BAF.solutions. Go in the thread. Thank you, Brian, for sharing. The reason we have these conversations because hopefully you learned something that you didn't know. If you were on earlier, Akil from Chase gave some good information of some funding that's out there for you. So just when we end, you can rewind if you missed it and just tuned in, and you can get that information because those who get the information first and take advantage of it will win. The last thing is, and Ms. Couture said, that we had to get our stuff in order. The pandemic pushed you into the future faster maybe than you wanted to go, but it pushed you. And so it's some people who needed their coffins closed, it pushed their coffins closed. Others were able to be nimble, to really transition, to really take advantage of technology, to see what the needs were, see what the problems were. That's what business owners do, find the problems and solve them. And they were able to not only survive, but thrive. And I thank you, Brian, again for the mindset, because you got to put the mindset as a business person that you want to thrive. Who nobody wants to get in business just to survive. Yeah. People are asking you for DUNS numbers and balance sheets and P&Ls, and you were looking at like you've been doing, you know, cash behind the business, seeing as less you can pay instead of get your stuff in order. That's what I used to tell my kids. Handle your business before your business handles you. All right, we're going to go around. Final words on the chicken box. That was mine. Handle your business before your business handles you. I'm going to go with you, Ms. Couture, first, and then I'll go Dr. Draper, and I'll let Akil in DC close us out. Ms. Couture, final words. Whatever you want to say about Black-owned restaurants, businesses, hospitality, you are on the box to speak your truth right now.
Support Black, buy Black, shop Black, eat Black, dine Black. Anything that you can do it Black. This is our opportunity. We have never before been pushed. I like to tell people this is the third Reconstruction, in my opinion. And this is our chance to really advance our culture forward for the next 100 years. If you're going to be on technology, use it for good. If you're going to put up a video, use it for good. Don't use it to bash. Don't use it to hate. Don't use it to be competitive. Don't use it to be envious. Use it as a platform to spread the goodness that's happening in your life and your community around you. There are great places, great establishments, great businesses to patronize. But you know what? We don't hear them unless you tell us. So I'm with the International Black Restaurant and Hospitality Association. We have events all the time, and we want to hear about those great places so that we can continue to amplify them, new and old, but really use this opportunity to help propel us forward. Because we may not get this again for another 100 years. We might not even be around that long with how they're trying to treat us, to be able to have an opportunity to take advantage of the grace that we've been given. So even if you can't support, even if you can't, you don't have the income to necessarily purchase, you can promote. You can promote with positivity, and you can promote intentionally. So I just ask that you do that.
Promote with positivity and intentional. Everybody who's been on here, Brian, Jewel, Tony, everybody who's still hanging out, leaving comments, that's intentional. They will be there. They go into the Afro archives, y'all. Even if Facebook says, you know what, we tired of Black people. If they say that one day, we're going to download it, and you can go to afro.com because we got our own website. You know what I mean? We come here because that's where you are. We're going to be where you are. But the point is, for 128 years, we've been given the information. And hopefully you share this with somebody, because somebody has a business, a restaurant, or just need to hear it to just change their mindset about, hey, man, we really need to do exactly what Ms. Couture said. Dr. Draper, you're in the box.
Well, you took my box time. And
I did.
Yeah, my box.
I'm going to give it back to you since you're the CEO of the
I was going to say, no, I was going to say something along the same line. I'm glad that Ms. Couture brought up about supporting Black business. The Afro is a Black business. And so sometimes Black businesses get taken for granted just because we've been here since 1892, and you have not because you asked not. We need our Facebook friends and others to support us, not just by reading our news free on afro.com, right? But in order for us to be able to post that, we have to have employees. We have to have our stuff together, Mr. Stinson and Ms. Couture. We have to have that together in order for our business to grow. So we're a business. I'm going to ask that you subscribe afro.com for less than the cost of 2 Uber Eats, $40 a year. You can get the digital edition, and it helps us to employ quality journalists and to expand our business as well. So I just wanted to say, let's support one another's businesses. And speaking of the Afro and speaking of supporting us, we're doing this month, our theme is We're Still Here. We're focusing on on food and our traditions, and that's why we're talking about food and financing and those kinds of things on today. But we're also getting ready to do a section in honor of I think it's Education Week or Teachers Week. Our editor@afro.com. I'll put it in the chat in a moment. We want to know your high school, your teacher's name, and the reason that you chose that, but your name too. So your name, the year you graduated from high school. If you want to put it in the chat here, feel free, but you can send it to editor@afro.com as well. I'm going to put it in the chat. And so we're going to give you a shout out to your teacher, your name, your teacher's name, your high school, your year, and one sentence reason. All right, it's there twice. One sentence reason why you chose that person. So I'm off the box, and I just want to say to Mr. Stinson, since this is my last time on the box, thank you so much, and for what Chase is doing. See, inside, I mean, Chase is a humongous, it's a huge corporation. So just to have you there, I hope you have a team that's really supportive of everything that you're trying to do. And when you get your time in the box, maybe you'll tell us the best way, with the best on-ramp for our businesses to access all the Chase has. And so thank you. Ms. Couture, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm off the box.
Great. So I think I'm up. Dr. Draper, thank you.
You're welcome.
You ended your time on the box talking about acquiring teachers. And to me, that means acquiring education and knowledge. And what we try to do here, or what we do here at Chase Business Banking, is you walk into any Chase branch, there's a member of the team there who has a specialization in business. That individual, depending on how complex your needs, can help you right there or refer you to a member of the team who works with the different levels of business. In addition, I wanted to make sure I emphasized our community partners. So while we do what we do at Chase, and we've been doing it for over 200 years, just a little bit longer than Afro in the newspaper. However, our community partners are located in the community, and they are there to help the community. Chase, as a community partner, we write checks and give grants for the organizations, the CDFIs, to expand their mission. And I want to emphasize the knowledge and the technical support they provide. So whether that comes to accounting, whether it comes to marketing, whether that comes to managing media, they can do that. Whether it comes from idea generation, there are even elements of the CDFI where they say, hey, you have an interest in entrepreneurship. Let's work together to come up with an idea and build a business plan. So it has been my pleasure to be here and be a part of this conversation. I'm really proud of the work we do at Chase Business and Chase Business Banking and partnering with our local CDFIs. Just to reiterate, as far as the resources that are available, please go see your local CDFIs. The fund I spoke about, the SOAR Fund, the Southern Opportunity and Resilience Fund, announced today, helping all restaurants up to $100,000. And additionally, there's the Restaurant Revitalization Fund that is by the SBA. We go directly to the SBA. So, all the people who, if you're a business owner or if you know business owners, please reach out and share this information because it's available and it is out there. And these are dollars that are for the taking. So thank you for your time. Very happy to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Dollars for the taking. That would be the word for those who can educate themselves and get the information. You got it. You're looking for your CDFI?
Community Development Financial Institution, CDFI. Right. Community Development Financial Institution.
Don't worry, I'm going to watch the replay anyway myself. And it's 15 states for the SOAR, or the Southern
Opportunity and Resilience Fund. Yes, 15 states.
15 states, and they said Maryland, and some people said that's not South. I said yes, it is, right below the Mason-Dixon line. So if you want to know the first official Southern state, it would be Maryland, you guys. So get the information, apply it to your business, and if you know somebody and it doesn't work for you who owns a business, tell them about the fund, tell them about the information, and if Chase is in your area, you guys need to check the bank that you deal with and see what they are really doing in our community. And if in fact you find that they're doing absolutely nothing or behind Chase, you need to think about it and change your personal or at least your business account to a place that really puts impact and cares about the communities that we serve. We thank you, Akil. We thank you, Miss Couture, on the West Coast. You got up a little early for us, so it was breakfast for you. And for everybody who continues to just help us speak truth and who positively wants to have grace on our community and share information that works out. And hey, you know, and be open to a correction every now and then, because somebody told me a long time ago, correction is the quickest way to success. If you can correct that problem or even receive correction in love, you will be able to move forward. So until we meet again next Thursday.
I have one more thing I just want to say to Mr. Stinson. Mr. Stinson, I heard you say earlier something about you're not a very patient person. So you be careful what you ask for. A 17-month-old will give you all the patience that you need. That's all.
I'm learning for sure. Thank you.
Congratulations, our new father. You know, we know it's Mother's Day coming up, but we're gonna congratulate you, and you can now get a card from your daughter to your mother. You know, she'll probably be surprised if she's watching. The surprise is over. But anyway,
already ordered. Take care of that.
Akil, that's what I'm talking about. See, fellas, you gotta learn from Akil. He's learned how to have grace in his home, so that so that the peace will be there and the think in advance. Don't wait till the date comes up on you. Just put it on your calendar like 3 weeks as a reminder and get those brownie points. Anyway, until we meet again, this has been Black People versus Black-owned restaurants. We've had some wonderful, wonderful guests, and I thank you. And our guests came on at the last minute, but it turned out that they were the right people for the situation, and the information gained today was fantastic. So until we meet again, stay on for a second, guys. I'm going to just get some information for you. But everybody else, have a fantastic day and go. It is Black Restaurant Year. Okay, all year long. I changed it from a month. They already tried to put us in the month of Black History. Listen, it's all year long. It's 360. That's our new thing in the Afro. Be a Black-owned business is 360. Okay, we're gonna start that campaign. You guys have a great day.